Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel where today we are going to do a full-length non-spoilery review of Sea Witch by Sarah Henning, the first book in the Sea Witch duology. So this is a young adult fantasy, and it is a reimagining of the villain origin story of the Sea Witch from The Little Mermaid. So we are following our main character of Evie, who happens to be the daughter of the royal fisherman, and her best friend is the crown prince, Nick. And there used to be a third person that was part of their friendship trio, Anna, but unfortunately 4 years prior she drowned. Now, Evie and Nick have obviously tried to figure out how to move on, and they have finally got to a point where they are mostly okay. And then one day, Evie sees a girl on the beach who looks suspiciously like Anna, and Evie is overjoyed at the thought of having her friend back, but it is also very clear that this girl has many secrets of her own. And then the story goes from there. So first up, let's talk about the world building. So from what I can tell, this is set in the 1800s in Denmark. It might be a different Scandinavian country, but I'm pretty sure it is actually Denmark. We're in this like fishing village that the king and queen and crown prince also happen to live in. And sometimes it feels a little bit like a kind of generic European pre-tech fishing village. Although there are definitely some details that are given to kind of highlight the fact that this is actually a Scandinavian country, but it did feel occasionally, again, like a little generic. I do like how the setting was described, though. It did feel like I was at a fishing village, so that was definitely well done. As for the magic system or systems, there might actually be multiple systems. I'm not entirely certain. Whether it's one or many, they're all squishy. There are no rules given, which generally speaking doesn't bother me too much, as long as it doesn't interfere with the story. But unfortunately, that's kind of like there were things that didn't quite make sense. So there we don't know if everybody can do the same kind of magic or if there's like mermaid magic and human magic, although we're kind of led to believe that maybe they're separate, except Evie, who does human magic, can also maybe do mermaid magic for no explanation why. I don't actually know. This is no, it didn't actually affect the story that much, that we didn't know all this stuff until kind of the end. And then it was weird because we didn't get any rules about the magic. So we didn't really understand how it worked. But there was this big magical event that kind of happened at the end, and the author was trying to take us along as we watched this thing unfold. But like, there's not a whole lot that can be said if you're watching magic unfold, but you don't have the rules to understand what is actually happening with that magic. So it was just kind of a very strange scene where I'm like, I don't really understand the point of this explanation when it's not really an explanation. I don't know. I honestly would have just preferred if the author had gone and poof, it happened. But so that was like the only time where it really did matter that we had this very squishy system with no rules. But other than that, it was absolutely fine. I will also just let you guys know, we do not spend very much time with the mermaids. So like if you're hoping that we're going to get a lot of like, what is it like to be a mermaid? No, we do spend some time, but it is very little and it is very focused on some specific things. So next up, let's talk about the characters. So obviously Evie is our main character, and I liked Evie in general. I was definitely rooting for her, and it was very interesting to watch her because she tries so hard to do good things for the village, even though the village kind of hates her. But she frequently doesn't understand the consequences of her actions, partially because some of those consequences are very subtle. Some of them because she's like 15 or 16 years old, so she just doesn't have the years of experience to know what's going to come about from this. And so I was definitely rooting for her, even as I was just like, oh, this is not going to end well. And it was really interesting to see her try to um, handle the reality of like what she's dealing with. And then we have Anna Met, and that is the person that Evie sees on the beach. And Anna Met is, I think, really well done because it is very difficult to have this, to create this character. Because Anna Met is actually eventually very forthcoming with Evie about a lot of things. But I always got the feeling from her that she was holding back just a little. So I'm like, do I trust you? Do I not? I don't know what you're holding back. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Does it matter? I don't know. And I actually think that that is really well done because I never felt like I was, the author was hitting me over the head with this like subtle, oh, it was much more subtle of, oh, I think she might be holding something back. And I generally really appreciated that. The other two main characters we have are Nick and Iker, and they are the crown princes. So Nick is the crown prince for the village that Evie lives in. Iker is his cousin who is a crown prince for a place across the strait, I think in Sweden or something like that. And generally, I just found them to be kind of bland. They really are a study in contrasts as how they handle the various situations are different from each other. But other than that, I didn't think that they were badly written characters or anything. I just found them to be kind of bland. I will say that there is a romance that sparks between Evie and Iker pretty quickly, so this is not really a spoiler. And I think that I didn't really appreciate it. So the thing is, they were definitely friends before the start of this novel, so we don't see them coming together emotionally, really. So there's just a lot of physicality. There's no sex, there's just a lot of physical interactions with them. And so that's what their romance is. And like, even having read the whole book and understanding all the various parts of the storyline and where everything kind of fits in, I do think that the balance of this romance was too heavy. I think we could have pulled back a little bit from the romance and still and given it to other points and it still would have been just fine. So I did not generally, I didn't like, I thought it was too strong when I was reading it, and even afterwards I still think it is too strong. So let's go ahead and talk about the plot. And I think that this is generally a really good plot. So I really, really liked watching Evie and the consequences of her actions, because there are choices that she makes very early on that have consequences, and she ends up reacting to these consequences in interesting ways. But we don't always know like all of what is happening and what, like, how everything is interrelated until kind of the end. And I just thought that was very, very interesting. I do think that the ending of this was a bit rushed. So it just, like I said before, the magic part of it the ending didn't really make much sense. And honestly, it felt very strange because we were kind of, it was dialogue and feeling heavy in the beginning, and then the last 50 pages or so was just like action, action, action. And it was just kind of, we could have just slowed it down just a hair, and I think it would have been a little bit better in balance. However, I will say that I think that watching the characters descent into kind of evil was incredibly interesting. And once I remembered that they are in fact only like 15 or 16 years old and have like wild emotions, it actually did make a lot of sense as well. And then even though like this book definitely made me anxious as I was waiting for everything to go horribly wrong, because that's what happens in villain stories, right? I really liked this imagining of the sea witch and how the sea witch came to be. I think that a good origin story, it will give context to how the villain ends up interacting with our hero in the story that we know, right? And I think that this does a really, really good job of it. I think that the origin in general, like how it came about, was really interesting and definitely different than what I was expecting. But also, like, we see the sea witch actually interacting with the Little Mermaid, and we understand why she is taking the mermaid's voice, and we understand more of what is going on. And I think that that's what a good villain origin story should do. So I think that this was really well done. So lastly, let's just talk real quick about the pacing, writing style, and structure. This is generally a medium paced kind of book, occasionally edging into slow until it gets to the end, and then it is very fast. The writing style is fairly straightforward. The structure of it is interesting in that we do have obviously like present day, but after some chapters, we have flashbacks to 4 years ago when Anna drowned. And so we actually see all of that happen on page, and those flashbacks continue through until the end of the story when it kind of meets up with present day. And I think that how the story unfolds between what we are finding out and having revealed to us present day, and then also having some things slowly revealed in the past, makes this a very, very interesting story. And I think that that structure definitely adds to the overall storytelling, like how good the storytelling is of this particular book. But yeah, I ended up, obviously, I really liked this book. I think that there were definitely things that could have been done better, but I still really enjoyed my time with it, and I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. So, if you have read this book, if you are interested in this book, come talk to me about it down in the comments. But that is all I have. So, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!